Felicia Marcus is a visiting fellow at Stanford University's Water in the West program. She's also a member of the Water Policy Group that works on water policy with governments and international bodies. She joins me now live from the conference in New York. Felicia, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Now, 1 in 4 people does not have access to clean drinking water across the world. This is quite alarming, isn't it?
Of course. I mean, it's shocking in this day and age when we think of what we can do in so many places that so many people do not have access to clean, safe, and affordable water or sanitation. And it is really a test of us as a civilization and as a people, whether we can meet that challenge, rise to meet the challenge.
Right, and I was going through the UN's Sustainable Development Goals that were released back in 2015, and one of them is access to safe drinking water by 2030. Is that achievable?
Well, I think almost anything is achievable if we have the will. I think there have been places where tremendous strides have been made. I recently ran the Water Resources Control Board in California, and we made a very high priority of meeting the human right to water, and hundreds of thousands of people now have access to water who didn't just a decade ago. So I think a mobilization of people and focus can make that happen. But with competing demands and the fact that water can be taken for granted so easily in so many places, I think it really requires the kind of renewed call and renewed attention that many of us are hoping that this UN Water Conference will bring.
But Felicia, you work with international bodies and governments, and the fact that this is the first UN conference on water in nearly 5 decades, what does it tell us about how serious politicians and world leaders are about solving this crisis?
Well, it's a good point. You can look at that a couple of ways. One is to say that world leaders and others have taken this for granted for far too long. On the other hand, you can look at it and say, well, thank God that we're doing it now and that people are looking at it now. And at the Water Policy Group, we've done now 2 surveys of world water leaders, and water is definitely coming to the fore. The impact of climate change is putting a particular edge on it in terms of water security and highlighting the issues because it affects not only those who don't have access to water and sanitation, but it highlights that however bad it is, it's going to get worse and it's going to be more challenging. And sometimes that challenge, the fact that climate change is the #1 challenge to water security, lights a fire under people to realize that we really have to act. The interesting thing about water in so many places in the developed and developing world is that people can take it for granted. We've made strides in many places over the years. People are proud of the fact that more people have clean, safe water than had it in decades and centuries past, but
Right.
it's not anywhere near enough.
Felicia, correct me if I'm wrong. Unless we tackle the problem of climate change, we won't be able to solve this crisis.
Well, I think both are true. If we can't tackle the climate change challenge really seriously, we're in a world of hurt across a whole spectrum of issues. If we put our attention to dealing with water, we can make an enormous difference through new technologies, through efficiency first and foremost, recycling, capturing it, groundwater storage, thinking about each drop of water as the precious source of life that it is for us and the ecosystem and the world that we rely on for our sustenance, both physically and emotionally and spiritually. So I think the fact that we haven't applied ourselves and we've taken it for granted as much as we have in many parts of the world gives us an opportunity to change that. And we're seeing it change in quite a few places, but not nearly enough.
Fascinating insights into the topic. Felicia Marcus, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.
Well, honored to be asked. Thank you very much.